Hello and welcome to another episode of the Visual VC podcast. This podcast is the go-to resource for practical advice and insights on building, growing and securing funding for a startup. Today we have a special guest, Andrew Altshuler. Andrew will share his insights and knowledge on decision-making methodologies. He will discuss how using AI can aid in making decisions when working with large amount of information and data, ultimately helping your business grow and determine where to invest your time and money. Andrew is a researcher, consultant, and educator who is obsessed with knowledge systems, AI, solving complex problems. With over 12 years of expertise in multidisciplinary research, knowledge management, and decision science. So he has co-founded Collider, an independent media publication, and founded Collective, an AI-powered knowledge management solution. Andrew is also the navigator of Tana, an intelligent all-in-one workspace, and the creator of FAST, a productivity system for knowledge workers. With his wealth of expertise and knowledge in his field, you don't want to miss a single word from Andrew. So let's get started. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's really exciting.
It's so exciting to have you. I guess we just need to just jump into the water and start getting. Who are you, Andrew? What do you do in life? I mean, what brought you into this decision-making, knowledge, expertise?
Yeah. So I actually went to research pretty early. I discovered that I'm pretty good and working with immense amount of data, immense amount of information. And I started doing research something like 12 years ago. And basically that became my kind of main domain, my kind of main competence. But when I try to tell people something about myself, I usually tell that I have like 3 circles. And those circles, they have a lot of interconnection. So first circle is basically research. Right, so I do a lot of trend research, market research, and this type of stuff. Basically, most of the commercial stuff. Then I'm deep into the field of decision science. Decision science is basically the science, the interdisciplinary field of which study how people make decisions. Right, and this is one of my lifelong fascination, and it helped me a lot personally. Because to tell you the truth, at one point of my life, I was a terrible decision maker. And the third sort of circle, it's all about knowledge and information management, right? And I started doing this a long time ago, something like 15 years ago. I started to take big notes, connecting them, doing this type of stuff. And people look at me like a crazy person. When I try to show it to someone, they say, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" It's just nobody needs that. And only I think probably 5, maybe 4 years ago, people start to discover this, oh my God, there's so much information, right? We're constantly overloaded, and we need tools and practices to manage it, to be able to learn quickly, to be able to gather enough information to make more informative, more smart decisions. And this is another thing which now I'm invested, and again, this is my lifelong fascination. And as you said, I'm one of the navigators in Tana. Tana is a new era knowledge management product, and we definitely can talk about it today. But that's probably it.
So first of all, we're definitely gonna talk about Tana. Is a mind-blowing software that we're gonna touch on that. But let's start from the basics. How people make decisions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say like decision making, it's one of like a core kind of functions in life, right? And you might say like you're in the place in your life where you are right now, right? You are founder of extremely successful company, and if you kind of look back and try to reverse engineer your path, you would understand that basically you got there by making smart decisions, right? I mean, there's a lot more. Obviously, you learn, you navigate with people, you inspire them, and like a lot more than just decisions. But decision making is one of the primary things why you're here, right? And it's universal. It's for all of us. So decision making is crucial. And another problem here is very few people actually study how to make decisions, right? So this is like one of the key things we need to learn how to do better. And very few people study it, and very people try to kind of understand. So if we go to the field of decision making, there are a few things that we can linger on. First, when we face the situation where we need to make a decision, we need to frame the problem, right? Because the problem, well formulated, it's a problem half solved, right? Mm-hmm. So already in this area, there's a lot of problems. For example, there are a phenomena in decision science called teenage decision making. And what is it? It's when you pick up, like when you face this decision, you have only two options. And this is like sending us to this, how teens make decisions, right? So basically, should I hang out with the person, with this guy, or this girl, or shouldn't I? All right? Should I go there? Should I go to this party, or shouldn't I? Right? It's only two options, always two options. But in life, there's never two options, right? Whenever you face the decision in your business, for example, you need to start a marketing campaign, right? You need to hire the person, right? You need to invest in some new venture. There's never like the framing of we're investing in this or we're not investing, right? It's a horrible framing, right? Usually you need to go back one step or two steps and you say, okay, this investment opportunity, what is it actually for us, right? Why are we going there, right? And in this case, you're gonna have like much better framing. For example, I worked with one client a while ago, and they asked me like the question, should we invest into this venture, right? Or shouldn't we? Mm-hmm. And I said, guys, this is the horrible framing. And we need to, first, before we go and do some research, we need to update it. We need to create a better framing, right? And the better framing would be, we have some extra money, how we can use them to make a better return. Right? It's much better framing than should we invest into X or shouldn't we, right? So framing is crucial. Framing is like a number one kind of thing when you stumble upon the decision, when you need to make a decision. So we can go it like step by step, right? Just go through decision process step by step, or maybe you have something else in mind, like we can kind of tackle it differently.
So first, it's very important to kind of get back what you're saying, that first of all, before you make any decision, you need to frame. You need to understand what you want to get out of it. I mean, if you go to a marketing campaign, or if you want to invest in a company, you need to know all of the data and information. So let's talk about. In a business, you've got investment, you've got some money on the side, and you need to now make a decision what you're going to make. What are you going to do with the money? Where are you going to put it? I know I need to hire people. I know I need to invest in marketing and the product and stuff. So let's give me some example from your experience that how you help founders or help directors of companies to make decisions. What information you're getting, and how eventually, after you frame it, what is the steps to get the decision?
Yeah, let's do that. So basically, although framing is the first step, when you go deeper into these decisions, it can change, right? So you gather more information, you learn situation better, and this framing can change. But I think you said like a wonderful example, because if we go into investment, right? First, probably one of the first questions we should ask ourselves: should I be the person who decide, right? Am I have enough competence? And am I have enough data? Do I have enough time just to make it good, right? Or I can outsource it, I can delegate it, right? So even before you start collecting data or doing this, all of this stuff, or even maybe learning, you need to ask yourself, am I the right person to make this decision? And in decision-making science, we call it meta-decision. So basically, this is decision about decision, or plan of decision, right? So this is like a steps, or how would I make this decision, right? And for example, the first step can be framing, and the second step would be thinking about like a strategy. What would be the decision strategy? Make this decision myself, delegate it to someone, or create a group of the competent people who would help me with this decision, right? That would be the first step. Then, for example, the second step would be you need to define a time frame, right? How much time do I have for this decision? Do I need to do it right now because there's like a big opportunity or some other factors? Or do I have actually a week or a month or maybe even a year, right? And when you have a clear understanding of timing, you can adjust your meta decision, right? You can say, oh, I actually have a year, so I can spend first couple of months thinking about the strategy, then another 2 months of collecting data, then another 2 months of basically figuring out or maybe testing it, prototyping, right? So you need to, if you have like your time frame, and if you have like your expectations and other criteria, you can design this meta decision. You can design this plan of making this decision. So this is crucial. And everything is before you're making a decision. Probably somewhere on your road, you're gonna stumble upon this thing called sense making. What is sense making? Sense making is basically when you have a lot of like unstructured data, like scattered information, some experience, some advices. You need to say, whoa, stop, right? I need to collect everything. I need to analyze it, and I need to make a comprehensive model out of it for me, just to understand it. So basically, this is like very literate. It's just making sense of all the data you have of that decision, right? So for example, if you go into investment, you need to make sense of like, what opportunities do you have? What returns do you have? Like, what risks do you have? This type of stuff, right? And you need to make sense of it all just for you to make this kind of model which could help you to make this decision, right? Which could help you to pick up the best option. Because decision making is basically like you picking one option. That's it, right? You have a plenty of options and you pick one or two or none. This is also a possibility. So this step is crucial, sense making. So already you see we didn't even go to decision, but we already framed it. We designed this meta decision, the plan of making decision, right? We decided about the strategy. Who would make this decision? Who needs to make this decision? Me or collectively? Or I need to delegate it, or I don't need to make this decision at all. Maybe just it's a bad idea, It's just like sometimes it's good to, kind of look at your mental state, look at your physical state, look at your emotional state and say, oh my God, maybe now it's not a good time, right? And for example, if you take a casino, right? What is the business of casino? It's basically a lot of people making stupid decisions, right? Why? Because they are in a horrible physical state. They probably drunk or underslept or they kind of in a rush or whatever. So basically the business of casino is a bunch of people making stupid decisions and losing money, right? So you need to look at yourself and say, am I in the best physical shape now? Am I in the best mental shape? Am I too emotional now? Am I rational now? And this type of questions. And then you go to sense making, you say, okay, I think I'm in a good condition. I think I need to make this decision, right? I'm the right person to do it. So now I need to collect all of the information and make sense of it. You see, we got already 4 steps before we actually going into, basically picking it up, right? Basically, before we go to this, I need to pick up this option. So this is kind of, in a nutshell, a few steps before we need to make any decisions. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be like this, always. For example, if you're choosing like a dessert in a cafe, you probably don't need to go for this complex procedure, right? It only works when decisions are like super important, that like a lot at stake. Right? right? For example, maybe a lot of money or your health, something important. But then if it's mundane decisions, you can make them impulsively. You can not worry about it. And basically this ability to understand whether its decision is actually like kind of every day, not so important, or this is crucial. This is another huge skill concerning decision making, right? When you able to pick up like the most important decision and spend the most of your time thinking about it and ignoring everything else. Remember Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs always wore like the same shirt and the same kind of set of clothes because he didn't want to spend time thinking about, oh my God, what should I wear today, right? Because it's not important decision, right? Because he needs to focus on way more important things. And this is one of the ways he handled this kind of idea of, oh my God, I need to make a lot of decisions during my everyday life. This is called, by the way, the policy in decision making called the policy. So you decide, you take the policy, I work only this. Or for example, I work from home, right? Or for example, I go for a walk only after 6 p.m. And then you don't need to think like, where would I go for a walk, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have your policy for you.
So let's say I've got all the information, I collected the data, I decided who's gonna make the decision, and eventually I want to make a decision. I need tomorrow. I've got my time frame is a week. I need to submit my plan to my investors or my boards. Where am I gonna put my money within a week? Now, what am I gonna do? Okay, I got all the information. What's next?
Yeah, the next, if you are the only person who is making this decision, you need to outline all of the options you have, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to decide about the criteria, right? You need to specify criteria by which you're going to make this decision. Because this is the stage where people usually go to analysis paralysis, even in like very simple decisions. Because I studied a lot, and I know, for example, you have a like very unimportant decision. You need to buy a vacuum cleaner. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Whatever, right? You can buy whatever. Okay, you make mistake. Okay, you lose, I don't know, some a few $100. No worries, right? It's not the end of the world. But even on this stage where there's too many options and people are not clear about the criteria, they go to the state called analysis paralysis. Basically, where they cannot make decision. They just, oh my God, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this.
Define criteria. Give me an example of a criteria. You need to define criteria.
Yeah, for example, in this case of vacuum cleaners, you can say, I need a vacuum cleaner which would be without any power cord, basically on,
wireless.
Which I can use without any connection to the socket. And it needs to just it needs to have a charge for 15 minutes or an hour, right?
Got it.
And you say, oh, these are my criteria, and I want to make it pretty, and I want to make it last longer, and that's your 4 criteria. You have your like a time without charge, you have your aesthetic criteria, and you have your like the idea of the function. And when you have this criteria, you see, okay, you have all of these options, and you basically create like a very simple table, right, where you have your criteria, say, in columns, and your options in rows, and then you just assign weights, and you see which one is better. The problem here is usually when people do it, they still some kind of have an option, right? And which they prefer, although it's not the best choice, It's just like when they have, oh my God, this option, this vacuum cleaner, it scored 25 on my scale, and it's better than better than other options, right? But they see, oh my God, but this one is so pretty. Although it scored only 17 or 15, but it's so pretty, I want this, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the moment where a lot of cognitive biases comes into play, right? When we make this type of choices, we're usually irrational. We usually overestimate one factor, right? And this is the point where you need to sit and look at yourself, look at your cognitive process, right? It's called the metacognition, right? When you think about cognition, cognition about the cognition, and you say, am I under influence of the cognitive biases, right? Daniel Kahneman, famous behavioral economist, right? He has this list of 12 questions which you need to ask yourself before making the decision. And one of the questions, am I in love with one of the options, right? Mm-hmm. And this is usually a sign where you're probably going to make a bad decision, right? Or at least you need to be aware of it, right? Maybe it's not a bad decision. Maybe if you're in love with something, it's a good decision. You never know. But if you're aware of it, and if you say, oh, I'm choosing this because I'm in love with it, because I love this vacuum cleaner, right? And you say, yeah, I would probably spend more money, and it's probably not the best option, but that's okay. I know I'm going to make this decision, and I'm going to be satisfied with it. This is okay. But if you make the decision and you say, oh my God, I spent too much money, I don't have this type of money. Now I'm broke, now I'm like in debt and this type of stuff. This is bad. You go for an option you fell in love with and you got yourself in trouble. So this is the place where you need to assess whether you are under the influence of cognitive biases. And we got plenty of cognitive biases. Mm-hmm. And Kahneman wrote a wonderful book about this, right? Thinking Fast and Slow.
Wow, so this is guys, this is a book recommendation, right?
Yeah, of course.
Kahneman, what is the title?
The title is Thinking Fast and Slow, and recently he's got another book which called Noise. It's also about decision making. It's a little bit more technical, but it's also a very good book.
Oh, Thinking Fast and Slow and Noise. Okay, this is one book recommendation. Thank you, Andrew, for that. Let's take it to the world of business. As I said, I need to make a decision about hiring decision in my company. I need to make a decision where do I put my marketing money. And obviously, you want to. I'm in love. I need to make sure that whatever, be aware of which decision I'm in love. So I put in my criteria, and then I need to put a scoring, right? This is like what is the scoring based on the success criteria. Let's take one step forward and imagine that we've got a lot of data. I mean, I collected marketing data from the marketing from the US market, and I've got a lot of data. How do I use AI and using that framework to make the best decision? And if I can use AI for that, I mean, is it something that's useful?
Yeah, now actually recently there is new product by OpenAI called Code Interpreter. It's a very misleading name because it's kind of to interpret the code, but basically what it is, it's like your programmer, but just virtual programmer, virtual coder, and you can ask it whatever you want. You can give it a data set and ask to analyze it, and it's doing marvelous job. It was just like, I've been playing with it for the last couple of weeks, and it's doing like crazy results. You know, it works way better than any like human analysis I ever work with. So it's a huge help. When you have a lot of data, you should use Code Interpreter, and and you basically work with it on a natural language. You say, look, I have this data set, right? What do you think about it? And it would say to you, you know, it's a good data set, or it's some kind of broken. I had this case, it would say to me, oh, your data set is kind of broken, I can fix it for you. And it fixed it for me. And you say, it looks like a data set about some kind of poll. And I would say you need to see like which like a cohort vote for something, right? So it even knows even beforehand what type of analysis it needs to do. For example, in the same thing with the market data, it would probably know that this is the market data, and it can give you like an advice which analysis you should do on it. So this is incredible, actually. It's like I never worked with something like this, and I work a lot with like in my life. Obviously, I'm not like I don't do quant in research. We call it quant and qual, which is basically like a qualitative data and quantitative data. I'm not like a quantitative researcher, right? I can do it, but I'm not very good at it. And I work with a lot of people who better at this craft, with data analysis, with data scientists. And this thing is, oh my God, it's like beyond any like reasonable expectations from data scientists. So this is huge help. But also you can use AI even like for you just to kind of make a step back and say, look, I have all of this data, right? And you can give it the list of data, right? And you can ask it, what would for example, I have a limited time. What I need to look into first? What would be like my number one priority, right? And it can help you even to prioritize the data, right? It might be wrong, it might be hallucinating. So obviously don't, take everything with a grain of salt. But usually it works really, really nice with this situation where the task, the objective is pretty standard, right? For example, doing a marketing campaign, it's pretty standard objective, right? And for example, like doing hiring the person, it's also pretty standard objective, right? Mm-hmm. So it has a lot of training data on it, and it helps immensely with this type of decision. So it can help you even just to build this meta decision. It can help you to build this plan. You just say, act as a professional decision maker. Here's my limitation. Here's my constraint. Here's the decision I need to do. Help me to create a plan for this decision. And again, wow. The output is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because I ran a lot of cases which I had from my career. I know the sort of right answer. It's never like 100% right, but I can say this is rather good or this is rather bad. And in all cases, it did like way above average than the average decision maker, than the average analyst.
So you actually upload the CSV file, or how do you upload it to OpenAI? What is the format you use?
Yeah, you just turn on the code interpreter. You need to have a premium subscription. You go to the lab settings. You turn on the code interpreter. It's now available to everyone who has a premium subscription. And in your kind of window, you have this plus sign which you click, and it allows you to upload CSV, XLS, whatever file you have, and just work with it.
Wow, amazing! That's something like I'm gonna jump in and try it right after our call. What else? What other frameworks or tools you can recommend for business owners, founders, anyone that really need to make a decision on next step?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the thing called PreMortem. There's like a PostMortem. Yeah. When you have like a project which didn't succeed, which went horrible, you gather your team and you say, all right, team, what went wrong? Where we screw up, right? And this is the good exercise because you learn on your decision. This is another very important thing which many people and many companies ignore. When something went wrong, when you made a wrong decision, this is the great opportunity for learning, right? So this is kind of your last piece of this meta decision, right? You have your framing, you have your sense making, you have your meta decision, you have your plan, you have your options, and you have your choice. And the last part would be, what did we learn from it? If it's successful, or if it's failure, right? Obviously, there's always a problem of learning about decision because there's always the element of luck, right? You never know. Maybe it was a good decision, but you were unlucky, right? Or it was the horrible decision, but you just got lucky, right? I mean, again, going to casino, there's like a great example. I have all of my money which I need to support my family. I go to casino, I put it to the red it is, and I double it. And now I have a lot of money. Was it a good decision, right? It looks like it was, right? Because the outcome is good, but you never judge the decision only considering outcome, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you go back and you say, what if I didn't succeed. I will lose all of the money and my family would be in a horrible situation. So even the outcome is good, the decision was horrible, right? And this is exactly the problem why it's so hard to learn from the decisions, because the factor of luck is immense, but it doesn't mean you cannot do it. So it's important to always learn. So this is the end, like the last process of we learning from this decision, and we're making this post-mortem, right? We're looking at, like, for example, this is like a horrible situation. We took the new project and it went broke. Everything went wrong, and we lose a lot of money. And we say, okay, what went wrong? Okay, here we didn't do a lot of research. Here there was just like a person, he wasn't competent. Here, like, there was just like a marketing kind of general market trends, which, we were unlucky, we didn't consider them, whatever. And we have this list of why this project went broke, why we went broke with this project. So surprise, you can do it even before the project, Even before you start in this new venture, you would gather your team and you say, look, team, how this project can go wrong? What can go wrong? And you start brainstorming this idea. Oh, it's like, actually, this can be the recession. This person can leave the company and take a lot of expertise with him or with her, right? We might lose to this competitor, and all of these kind of options you would have beforehand. And next question you would ask, okay, what would be the signal for us, or for me as a business owner, what would be the signal that this thing start happening, right? For example, recession. What would be the first signal of recession? And you write it down, what would be the first signal. And the third question would be, okay, if we see this signal is emerging, if we see this signal, what are we doing, right? Maybe we're halting the project and we kind of stop loss, right? We start losing money. So we're gonna lose, but not that much. Or we change the market, or we change the team, right? Or we change the strategy, or we just put it on hold, whatever, right? Whatever strategy you choose, but you have this plan beforehand. And if the situation unfolds in some scenario, you already have a plan of action, right? You already know, oh, okay, we go into this scenario, here's what we need to do. And you have a lot less uncertainty. And I read a few papers which basically analyze the efficiency of this method, and this is really efficient. Obviously, it's not hard, it's pretty hard to estimate this efficiency because, again, it's very like shaky kind of ground, right? Which factor was most crucial? Did we kind of collect all of the data, and a lot of questions. But let's say it was kind of close to reality research, and I think it showed about plus 30% in kind of quality of decision making, in integrated quality of decision making. So it's a pretty good practice, and I would encourage everyone to try.
You're talking 30% of what?
I think it was something like integrated kind of metrics. For example, it was like money, time, and other kind of factors which was important for this decision. I don't remember like the exact details, but I can share this paper to you, and you can
interesting.
You can check it
We're definitely gonna share some resources in the notes, and that's definitely gonna come because I want to learn more about that. The PreMortem. I mean, I know PostMortem, but PreMortem. Yeah. This is something. Obviously, we probably run things in our heads or but if you do it properly, can you use AI models to do the PreMortem as well?
Absolutely, and it works amazing. Wow. And you just give it enough context. You just give it a good prompt, and you could say like, we're starting this project. Here's the expectation we have of it. What can go wrong? And you can actually do the system prompt and say, for example, act as a McKinsey consultant. This is actually change the output a little bit, and it makes it better because obviously it learned on the data of McKinsey consultant and cases and this type of stuff. So it kind of adopts some kind of, I want to say like mentality or mindset, but rather set of parameters which closer to what you actually expect from the good consultant. So yeah, you can definitely use AI to do this PreMortem, and you can even create a big prompt with some kind of variable which you can use for different projects if you run the projects frequently, right? So for example, if you're kind of job just to, for example, if you work with the clients and you know there's the clients with the risk, right? You can have this prompt and always run it before you decided whether we need to go with this client or we shouldn't, right? Mm-hmm. But obviously that would be like some additional work, but you can use it as a template later.
Wow, it would be great if you share some prompts of your own experience so we can share with the audience on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And tell me, maybe this question is irrelevant, but can you use PreMortem or decision-making framework on things like design? Like I want to design my website in specific layout or use those colors, or in ads, I want to run some ads. Is that AI or anything of the decision-making framework can help making the right decision on how to design my even my logo or my branding?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit harder because there's a lot of the element of taste, right? Because if there's not, it's not objective. It's just like you say, oh, I like it or I don't like it. And it's hard to codify why you don't like it. For example, you can say, oh, there's like a dark color, and dark color is kind of, it's not good for our brand because we're like very joyful and kind of, upbeat. This is like a good rationalization, but usually it's much more nuanced. So I would say if you go to this, anything connected to design, I think the right approach is very much the approach which already adopted by basically like a best practice in the market, which you tested, right? And this is another kind of aspect of decision making. For example, if you do design, you can ask yourself, is this decision reversible or irreversible? For example, if you put the design on like a poster and you print it and you put it like somewhere in Tel Aviv on the billboard, it's probably irreversible, right? Because that's it. Yeah. You cannot take it back, reprint it, change the logo or whatever, right? You can do it on the next campaign, of course, but this is irreversible. In terms of the site, you can always say, okay, let's run an A/B test and we see like which performs better and we can make decision after. Or we can run it and ask the users, and if we see like they react negatively, we can change it. And this is the easily reversible decision. No. So this framework of making about decisions, which decisions are reversible and which are irreversible, gives you additional power about prioritizing decisions, right? You obviously need to make a lot more effort, put a lot more effort into decisions which are not irreversible, right? Because, well, for obvious reasons, right? And if something can be reversible, you can say, oh, okay, we're gonna test it, whatever. If we're gonna see the data which are not like satisfying to us, we can basically change it. So I think this is the framework you can use for this type of decisions.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, what kind of advice you can give founders or business managers and when they're coming to decision making? I mean, using that framework, there's any specific decisions that are more better with using a framework, or there's any advice that you think from your experience?
Yeah. I would say there's like in a startup, there's a very dynamic environment, right? And people make a lot of decisions, and some things would stick and some things would go not the direction people would expect. So I think like using this like even simple framework of like framing, collecting the data, making the decision, and learning on the decision. I would notice that people in startups spend a lot of time of choosing. They pick up this phase of making the choice, and they just struggling with it. Oh my God, is this better or this, right? And I would say this is not a very good idea. And I would say spend more time on framing, because usually you struggle a lot with the choice because the framing is wrong. Right? Again, in this kind of situation, or should I hire this person, right? Should I hire? He's so good, or she's so good, right? but I don't know, I kind of have doubts. But rather your framing might be, oh, do I need to make this decision now? Do I need to hire this person now? Do I need to hire a person at all? Maybe we can outsource it, right? Maybe we can hire the agency, or maybe we can hire the AI to do this type of stuff, right? So there's a lot of things on the framing stage which can be left out, and people spend a lot of time like actually thinking about, oh my God, will this person would be a good fit for my company? And another thing, it's just last bit of learning on the outcome, right? Learning on the how the decision would play out. This in startups, usually this part is completely left out. Oh, we fucked up. Okay, no worries. We go further, right? we go to the next decision. And I would say never underestimate the power of learning. I know in a startup there's like a lot going on. There's like a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of dynamics. Move fast, break things. But it doesn't mean that you don't have time, just basically an hour in the evening, just collect the team and say, look, what did we learn? How we not make this happen again? Mm-hmm. This is super important. And this is like a very high ROI investment of time. Learning on the decisions which was suboptimal, on which was like bad decisions, or even like which was the good decision. So the general advice would be spend more time on framing and learning rather than on actually deciding.
Mm-hmm. So spend time on framing and learning, and then that's gonna help you to make better decision for people who are struggling with uncertainty and information overload, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, we're getting already to the end, and Andrew, give me some fun fact about yourself.
Oh, fun fact about myself. Let me think about it. It was an unexpected question. I think I can be like a little bit like maybe too much focus on structure. I'm just like, enjoy structuring stuff. So sometimes it can be like, it looks a little bit maybe like more like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, rather than, how people normally function. So I'm enjoy structuring stuff. I make a lot of time like structuring my knowledge. And although sometimes I understand, which is like, it's not useful, it's just like I enjoy doing this. So yeah, that's probably a fun fact, because I spend too much time structuring things around me, and I think this is like part of the OCD and part of like this, wish to make the world more kind of structured and less uncertain.
Well, the world a little bit is sometimes in more chaos than structure, but yeah, there is a structure to it, and I can understand you fully. Let's talk a few words about Tana. That's the software you were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
So tell us about Tana, what it is, and what does it mean that you the navigator of Tana.
Yeah, I actually now Tana has on a site, right, this kind of notion that this kind of idea of this is the intelligent workspace, but before that, it says the new computing environment, and for me Tana is new computing environment because it allows you to basically create the environment where you can work with your ideas and thoughts in a very like unexpected and kind of very provocative way, right? This is like the idea of you have all of your knowledge, right? For example, you have your book, right? And how you actually take notes from the book. Usually people highlight stuff, right? And most of the time, these highlights, they left there in a Kindle book or whatever. Okay, say you go further and you import your highlights to, for example, to Notion, and you have all of your highlights in Notion, right? And what would you do? You would go through them, you would structure them, and this type of stuff. What can you do in Tana? You can actually go a lot further. You can say, okay, this kind of block is the idea, or this kind of block is best practice. And you can tag it, and you can create the structure for this best practice. For example, you can say, oh, this is like, for example, we were talking about this decision making, right? And we can say, okay, creating the meta decision, it's the best practice for decision making, right? And you can, inside the Tana, you can create the sort of, in like a knowledge management, it's called ontology. Ontology is basically like the definition of the objects you're working with, right? For example, you can say, this is the best practice, this is the idea, this is the person, right? This is the meeting. And you have this kind of, all of your world, which you work with, structured with this kind of, in Tana, it's called super text. And no matter where you put it, for example, you say you have your, in Tana you have your today's node, right? And you can say, I have a meeting with Daniel today. And I can go like, I have a lot of lists, long lists of stuff that we discussed with. And then what I can do, I can later say, oh my God, I think it was on our meeting, this brilliant idea was on our meeting. So I can say, show me all of the meetings with Daniel I had, right? Where we discussed decision making, and it can do it. And you have this immense kind of access to all of your ideas, all of your best practices, all of your kind of everything you encounter in your ontology and basically in your definition of the world around you, right? So you have the power basically to create all the object you're working with, right? The person, the idea, the knowledge, the structure, the book, the article, whatever. You create them for yourself, and you work with them the way you are actually working with them, but not the way like the environment would prompt you to, right? Usually the idea of like, okay, if you have something, right? For example, if you have meeting, you would say the meeting have a person or the topic, right? That's it. That's what you need to work with, right? But in Tana, you can define what meetings means for you, right? Maybe you define this. It's important which environment was. Maybe you want to put it in a context, whatever. There's a lot of opportunities. This is the first thing. And the second thing is about AI. Inside the Tana, you can use GPT-4 now, which could give you the structured output. What does it mean? For example, you have your node, somehow unstructured, basically just a chunk from the book. You can create a prompt and say, create the nice outline bullet point out of it. One button, boom, you have your bullet points in the field you want. I mean, it's hard to talk about it. It's easier to show it, but you can go.
Maybe we need another episode about that. But in a nutshell, what can you gain out of Tana?
Yeah, I would say this is like a new way to interact with information, right? So you can put all of your information wherever you want. You can design the schema which would define it, and then you can access it in many different contexts. So this is like, it's more similar like when you work with database rather than you work with a document. And I think this is revolutionary, and the AI which could give you not just any output, but structured output, right? For example, you would say, okay, for example, I have like my health dashboard, right? I have my, I work a lot with my health now, and I have my health dashboard. And what can I do in Tana? I can say, break down, for example, the health into the component. And it would create 7 components of health, for example, like exercise, nutrition, sleep, disease prevention, and this type of stuff. And it put it already in a structure I want automatically, right? Mm-hmm. So I would have everything structured for me without me even thinking about it. And this is the beauty of Tana. Mm-hmm. But again, I would encourage our listeners and viewers just to go to the Tana website and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. Again, it's invite only, but if you need an invite, ping me. I will be glad to share it.
Check out Tana, and obviously let's see if Andrew can give us some invites. And lastly, can you give us a recommendation of a podcast or a book, not necessarily from your world, from a world that you recommend, you're interested in?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Lex Fridman podcast. Mm-hmm. It's just like it's probably most interesting podcast. I never miss an episode. For example, the recent episode with Yuval Harari is amazing. I really recommend to listen to it or to view it. It's just like my favorite podcast ever, and I'm a huge fan of Lex.
Great choice. Me too. I'm listening to most of these podcasts. And last lastly, how can people get in touch with you if they need some just to get in touch or get some consultancy work from you or whatever you want? What's the best way?
They can go to my site, altshuler.io. I think we can put it in the notes,
Yes.
right? And also the Twitter, we can put it in the note. I'm very active on Twitter, so that would be like probably the best way to get in touch.
Perfect. Wow. So, and there you have it. Valuable insights and advice from Andrew. I hope you found this interview informative and helpful on your own journey to startup success. If you enjoyed the episode, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching for more episodes of this series to get more valuable tips and how to build, grow, and raise funding for your startup. A big thank you to Andrew for taking the time and share with us his knowledge. Until next time, keep working hard and remember, it's not always about the destination, it's about the journey. Thank you for watching.